Hi, everyone. I want to give you a quick overview of the PSAT and some just overall strategies about the test. Please make sure you have your PSAT practice book in front of you. All right, would like for you to mark your calendar. This year, the College Board has decided that the PSAT will be given on either October 14th or October 29th. Conway Middle School will let us know which of those dates you will be testing on very soon. All right, a few things to know about the PSAT and MSQT test. The total time that you'll need for the test for actual answering questions is approximately 2 hours and 45 minutes. A good thing is that there is no penalty for guessing or blank responses. This is known as rights-only scoring. There is personalized SAT practice through Khan Academy once you get your PSAT and MSQT scores back. The scores typically come back around Thanksgiving or early December. The scale ranges for the scores are anywhere from 320, which is the worst you can do, to 1520, which is a perfect score. Okay, let's talk a little bit more in depth about how the NMSQT test is scored. So I mentioned rights-only scoring. This means that you get 1 point for each correct answer. You get 0 points deducted for each incorrect or blank question. So if you are not sure about a question and you can at least narrow down your choices, this will increase your chances of getting it correct. And honestly, it's probably better to guess because there's no penalty on an answer that you're unsure of than to leave it blank. The test is broken down into two categories, one for ELA, so reading and grammar, and one for math. Each of these sections, the ELA and the math, are worth a potential 760 points. When you add those two together, you can get your highest score, which is a 1520. Why take it? What are the benefits for me? I mentioned before, you will get personalized SAT practice on Khan Academy once you get your scores back. Khan Academy partners with College Board, who writes this test, and they have created a free service for you that will allow you to link your scores, and they will develop personalized practice for you. This test is aligned directly to the SAT, and for those of you who are not sure, the SAT is one test that some colleges require as part of their admission requirements. You get increased access to additional scholarship providers. This is huge. Scholarships are free money. So the better you do, or the more potential you show, even at a young age now, the more likely you will be linked to scholarship providers for future. Online college and career planning tools will be available to you. Admission and financial aid from colleges, and your scores are also one of the factors that your counselors can use to help place you correctly in high school courses. So let's talk about some skills on the test. The first section that you will complete is the reading test. And the reading test consists of 5 passages. There are 47 total passage-based questions, and you will be given 60 minutes in which to complete this. So if you look in your PSAT practice test book now, and you open up to page 5, there is a sample reading test of what it will look like. And the reading test goes all the way through to, let's see, page 21. So you can look at exactly what you will see on test day. All of the questions in this reading section are multiple choice, and they're all based on reading passages. Some passages are paired with another passage, so you'd have 2, or some type of informational graphic, such as a chart, a graph, or a table. This section does not require any mathematical computation, and there's no prior topic-specific knowledge ever tested. This section focuses on these topics. They will ask you words in context, so they will look at vocabulary, they will look at command of evidence, they will look at expression of ideas, and they will look at English conventions. This is really more of grammar piece. So a sample. When we talk about a passage-based excerpt, you will see a reading. Some of the readings are shorter than others, but they will always give you a multiple choice question. And for example, a sample question. As used in line 2, intense most nearly means, and you would need to go back to the passage and either look for the underlined reference, in this case, it's a vocab word, or they will give you a number throughout each of these passages, and you will have to find the reference number. But in this case, intense most nearly means A, emotional, B, concentrated, C, brilliant, or D, determined. And you would be able to read this passage and decide how it's best being used. A really good plan is to skim your questions first. When you are allowed to start passage 1, just skim them. Go through and answer all of the vocabulary questions first per passage, okay? This will take you the shortest amount of time. Then go to the single short passage questions. These will take you a little bit longer than the vocab, but not very long. Then you're going to read the short paired passage questions. These are when you have two readings together. Save the long single passage questions for the end. Doing all of these questions first is going to allow you to bank your time, and that means to save your time for the questions that are going to take you the longest. It's going to take you longer to read a long single passage and to answer those questions. So the recommendation is to save that for last. When you get to section 2 on your PSAT, it's the writing and language test, and a lot of it is grammar and conventions. So there will be 4 passages and 44 questions. You will have 35 minutes in which you're allowed to work on section 2. So if you look to your PSAT practice test, that sample test starts on page 22 and it goes to page 39. Okay, again, all of these will be multiple choice. Important to note, when you are given a passage-based question, and there are certainly plenty of samples in your practice test, you are going to read an excerpt. And this is a sample question, and there's no question. Really, what they want you to be able to do is reference the number. This number, okay, is going to ask you to reference that specific sentence or part of a sentence in that passage. So you're going to match the numbers that you need. Okay, you are going to look for the underlined word or phrase, and you are going to decide if this word is correctly used in this passage. So if you were to read this, Kingman, however, vacated from that tradition, in a number of ways, most notably in that he chose to focus not on natural landscapes such as mountains and rivers, but on cities. You have to decide if this word is used correctly. Is the tense okay? Is the word okay? If you think that it is correct, you will always mark A. That means I'm not changing anything about this word and how it's used in this passage. It's fine. If you think evacuated would be a better choice word to use here, you're going to select that. If you think departed is a better choice, you'd select that. If you think retired, you would select D. But again, if you are in agreement that this is 100% correct, you are always going to mark A because that will indicate no change. You leave it alone. You will also be asked to identify sentence errors. So this is one sentence, and it's marked up a good bit. It has an A, a B, a C, a D, and an E. Again, when you are asked a question, you are always going to be asked to refer back to the underlined part. Now, they could ask you any type of question or to identify the error, or is this part used correctly? And you are going to look, these are your multiple choice questions. If you think the problem is with the word it's, you would select A. If you think the problem occurs here with the use of the word were, you'd select B. If you think the problem is with phrase C, but one, you would mark C on your multiple choice sheet. If you think it's with on any, you would mark D. And if you think there's no problem with any of the underlined parts, you would mark E for no error. Okay, there are two math sections on your PSAT test. The math test focuses on the math that matters most for college and career readiness. And to be honest, y'all, it is not just college and career ready. Almost anything that you would choose to do after high school is going to assess your understanding of reading and math. It is not just for those that are college-bound students. If you decide to join the military, you are going to have to take what's called the ASVAB test. It assesses your reading and math skills. If you decide that you want to pursue a trade, you are going to have to take some type of reading or math test. So regardless of what it is that you choose to pursue, this is always good practice just for life after high school, regardless of what that is. To do well on this math test, you're going to need to demonstrate mathematical practices that include problem solving and using appropriate tools. The largest section, about 55% of all math questions, are going to be related to algebra. Okay, it could be anything with expressions, equations, number sense, functions, anything like that. But that is the bulk of what the test is going to contain. There is also going to be, the next biggest section is problem solving and data analysis. The tiniest portion is going to be passport to advanced mathematics. But I'll tell you this, all of the tests can be done with algebra and geometry, nothing higher than that. All right, the math section. There will be multiple choice questions, but there will also be student-produced responses. And so for the student-produced responses, you have grids that you will be able to mark your answers to on your answer sheet on test day. So if you have, for example, a fraction as an answer, such as 7/12, you would write the numerator followed by the fraction bar, followed by the denominator, and you would skip no spaces. Okay. And then underneath, you would bubble in that corresponding number or symbol. If you needed to write a decimal, you are either going to left justify it or right justify it, which means I'm not skipping any spaces. So if I needed to write 2 5/10, one digit and one symbol per box, and then you would appropriately bubble underneath. If you look under here, you would be able to start it either on the far right, so it's justified, or on the far left. You do not want to skip any spaces. All right, let's talk about some strategies, some more. Overall, strategy number 1, triage the test. You do not need to complete questions in each section in order. You need to work on the assigned section at the assigned time, but the order that you complete those questions in is totally up to you. So again, as mentioned before, the best thing to do is skim that test. Go ahead and mark your book up. This is your book. You will be given back your book when your test scores come back. We will store them here at school for you. So you're going to go through. You are going to very quickly determine which ones look easy, which ones look medium, and which ones look hard. You're going to label all the easy questions with an E, all of the medium questions with an M, and all of the hard questions with an H. And to be honest, you need to work in that order. If you do all of the easy questions to you first, you are going to, again, bank your time, which means save your time for the ones that are going to take you longer to work through. So make sure you triage the test. Number 2, pace yourself. You're ultimately going to have about 1 minute per question, and time management on any time test obviously is huge. So when you start a section, count the number of questions. All of your short passages in your reading sections are going to take you about 1 minute. So you can plan to spend about 1 minute per short passage. If you have a medium length passage or a paired passage, you're going to count the number of questions that you have to answer about those medium or paired passages, and you are going to add 1 minute to that. This is just an idea to give you timing. For those long passages, you are going to count the number of questions that you have to answer regarding a long passage and add 2 minutes to that. Remember, rocket people want to finish first. Snails just hope they can finish. Just pace yourself. Strategy number 3, elimination. If you can determine that one or more answer choices are definitely incorrect, you can increase your chances of getting the right answer by paring that section down. So read each answer choice, cross out the answer choices that you know are incorrect. If you can narrow it down to 2 or even 3 options, you are going to increase your chances for getting it right. And if you can't decide, just guess. There's no penalty, remember, for getting it wrong, but you could potentially earn a point for getting it correct. The more correct answers you have, the higher your score will be. All right, remember, good test takers do what they can do and don't worry about what they can't. Y'all are 1 in a million. You got this.